Welcome to a reading blog. Let's talk Frankenstein. My brother? What? I guess my reading of the creature made me question how I think of morals in life and good and bad. Mary Shelley, she kept his heart wrapped in poetry. Give me a leaf, I'll keep it. Have never read Frankenstein. I have never watched a Frankenstein movie. I have never interacted with Frankenstein really. I just know what everyone kind of knows of the creature, and I have been fed into the misbelieving of like treating it as a monster, and my wonderful friends have very kindly educated me that really Frankenstein is not a monster. I mean, Frankenstein is a monster because Frankenstein is the guy who makes the creature. What we refer as the monster or Frankenstein is just a creature who was created by Frankenstein, this doctor. I have started reading Frankenstein on my Kindle. I don't love to read on Kindle, but I'm really liking this book because I'm 30% into it. I started it last week, I think it was, and I had to stop because of my classes, but I'm loving it so much. Today is Thursday, right now it's Thursday night. I just came back from class. Tomorrow I do have a couple of things. I have an interview that I need to do for our magazine, and I have to submit 2 things. But once I'm done with that, I'm going to the bookstore. I'm going to get the paperback of this because last time that I was trying to film this vlog, it wasn't at the bookstore, so I couldn't find it. So tomorrow we're gonna go to one, and I'm gonna check before I go to make sure that I have the copy. I want this copy. This is the copy that I'm reading. Let's talk Frankenstein. I started reading the physical book last night. I've been reading the chapters, and then I've just been checking on the Kindle if I had any highlights or thoughts that I left there, so I can make sure to have all of them gathered here, because I feel so far this is a narrative that is so layered with meaning, recalls, a lot of mirroring of ideas throughout, and there were some that I was able to catch on my first read on the Kindle, and there were others that on my second read on the paperback I was able to catch more fully or at all. But then at the same time, there are a few from here that the eye who didn't know the story saw, and now the eye who knows the story, at least from the movie, I know that some things will be changed here. Doesn't see at first glance. It's weird. But I love annotating my books, and so I want to make sure to have a fully version of my reading of both what I read before and what I'm reading now. I saw a woman on TikTok saying that Frankenstein could be described as the experience of being a woman. That's actually what the story is about. I've been thinking about it. Sadly, it kind of makes sense. So far, I'm really liking Frankenstein, and I'm so happy that the movie came out because it pushed me to read it. I have a couple friends who love this book and who have told me that I would like it, that I need to read the book, but this is on the horror section, and I do not enjoy horror. Well, that I used to say. Maybe now after I have read Frankenstein, I can say that I enjoy some kind of horror, although this doesn't feel very horrific to me, at least not yet. Even on the Kindle, I only got into a point where the creature was created, but I didn't see any other thing past that. So maybe the horror really comes in after. I'm really surprised. I spent a lot of time yesterday reading all the introductions. I mean, it's one introduction, but you have like multiple kinds of essays within that one introduction about Mary Shelley's life. I love, like, whenever I get a Penguin Classic, just seeing the chronology of the life of the writer. I think it's so cool to be able to have your life boiled down to a chronology. So many thoughtful notes. Obviously, this is a scholar looking at the text and paying attention to who were the influences in Mary Shelley's life, from her near family to family friends to strangers, and really showing you who each of those persons were. So then when you read the book, if you have read that introduction, you're able to see, oh, there's a little piece of her husband there, or a little piece of herself, or a little piece of that scientist guy who once visited her home. I think I just reached a plot twist. Okay, Victor is getting back home and he's just like describing the journey there because William died, so he's going back to just be with the family. And it's nighttime now, and there's like storms going on. While I watch the tempest, so beautiful yet terrific, I wander on with a hasty step. This noble war in the sky elevated my spirits. I clasp my hands and exclaim aloud, William, dear angel, this is the funeral, this is the dirge. As I said these words, I perceived in the gloom a figure which stole from behind a clump of trees near me. I stood fixed, gazing intently. I could not be mistaken. A flash of lighting illuminated the object, and discovered its shape plainly to me. Its gigantic stature and the deformity of its aspect, most hideous that belongs to humanity, instantly informed me that it was the wretched, the filthy demon to whom I had given life. Could he be, I shuddered at the conception, the murderer of my brother? What? How did I guess that would be answer in the creature's hell, but how did he leave the house? Because it wasn't really a tower, it was just a house where he created him. Disappear, kind of like he just faded out of the earth, and now he reached his family, his brother, and kill him. Maybe that's not the truth. Maybe someone else was the one to take his brother, but wow, I did not see that coming at all. Which, it's so fun when classics give you a plot twist like that. Not saying that they don't, but usually because of how famous they are, you expect the story arc and kind of know what's about to happen, but I didn't know that. That was really fun. Okay, I'm intrigued. Reading update. I finished volume 2 of Frankenstein and it was my favorite part of the book so far. Here we finally see the creature and Victor interact, and this happens years after the creature was created and kind of ran away, we see him come back and tell his tale. So in volume 2 there's the creature's tale, and it was so interesting to read. Once again, very different from the movie, but I'm very happy for the difference in the movie, since this book came out centuries ago and we have gotten so many movies. I haven't seen them, but thinking of cinema and how one tale can be so prevalent for so many years, it's exciting to see how film directors and writers take one story and show different lenses of it. So that was really cool. I feel in the movie, in Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, you easily feel this emotion towards the creature and this despair for his life, and just you feel connected to the creature and you understand that Victor wasn't the greatest. But in here, when we get to hear from the creature committed a crime, and it's something that is not seen in the movie, and it's so, I don't know, here I feel that in the book Mary Shelley is really showing the balance of life and how you can only have life if you have death, you can only have good if you have bad. And when a man, a human being, tries to impose himself into that and kind of disrupt that balance, the consequences that you have because of it are shown in the book. Watching the movie, I never once felt any kind of sentiment towards Victor other than hatred. And in this book, yes, he's a villain, but he has these moments that are so human and relatable and understandable. That there are so many moments of fear, of doubt, of jealousy, of just pure human emotion that make him a very well-rounded character, and that has been a very nice surprise. And same thing with the creature. The creature is not just this poor being. I guess my reading of the creature here has maybe contradicted myself and my sentiments, and that has been very nice and exciting from a book, because I think morality is at the center of the question. One, it has made me question how I think of morals and life and good and bad. So that has been really nice. I'm at the beginning of volume 3 and it's not that long. There's much left of the actual story because this is extra material from this Penguin Classic edition. Yeah, I honestly don't know how it's gonna end. So that is very exciting. It kind of reminds me of the picture of Dorian Gray, in the sense of at the center of the book there's this question about life and morals, and I don't think we are necessarily given an answer, and I wouldn't want that. I just want to come to my own answers, and I think the book does that. I'm so happy that I picked it up. I was so scared of not liking this book, but I'm really liking it. Let's go home. I finally finished Frankenstein. This blog is all over the place. This blog and my reading of this book has been all over the place, but I have loved it so much, and I'm so happy that I finally read it this year. Every year before, I have said that I was gonna read it on Halloween, and that had never happened. Neither did it happen this year. I didn't start reading this on Halloween. I started it after. But I also said that I was gonna read this book and then I was gonna watch the movie, and I ended up watching the movie first and then reading the book. But I had an amazing time with both, so I'm really happy with my journey with Frankenstein this year. This is such a wonderful novel, and that's another thing that I wanted to say. I used to think that Frankenstein would be the book for Halloween, and that was its time, and that, you know, once Halloween was over, it wouldn't make as much sense. This book, it's a every day of the year kind of book. I think it was fantastic, and it really surprised me in the way that it's treating horror, and my expectations of the story were very different from what this story actually is. And I said this earlier in the blog, I think it's going back to the pop culture perception that we have of Frankenstein and the creature, and how we tend to interchange both and think that one is the other. And I was actually watching an interview that Guillermo del Toro did about the movie. He was talking about how people oftentimes call the creature Frankenstein, but that actually comes from a play adaptation in which they gave both Victor and the creature the name Frankenstein. And he was talking about, you know, how that also makes some kind of sense of wanting to lean into that, because, you know, the creator, his creation, this almost discussion of parenthood in a way, and just responsibility, which is all over about this book. I feel so relevant today now, maybe even so more than a few years back, because nowadays we have a lot of access to creation. Like me right now, I'm creating this video, and that's something that you at least can like choose to watch or not. Thank you for watching. But in this time, a lot of people have a lot of power to create things that affect us in our everyday scheme and in our lives, and it's really important, the idea of the responsibility of the creator and his creation. And that is something that is just all the way throughout the book. One thing that I loved that Mary Shelley did here is that in the movie, and I also said this before, it's very easy to think of the creature as helpless in a way and just abandoned, and all the terror that is caused is because of this. And we don't see, or I don't think the movie ever shows you the creature in a way that you could ever fault him for what happened. Not that Mary Shelley does that in here, but she does show the horror of both creator and creation, and that at the end of the day is provoked by the lack of responsibility towards creation. I really like that in the book. Both characters get a more full-rounded development of their characters. I think we see both Frankenstein and the creature in their good and bad lights, if you could define it as that. Victor has many times where his character is very relatable as a student, as a thinker, as someone curious, as someone who wants to make a difference in the world. For better or for worse, that's a different question, but he does have this very common drive to want to make something and want to really follow some kind of intention or some kind of goal that sometimes can get bigger than yourself, and there's where the question of responsibility comes in. But every time that Victor was talking before he created the creature about his process, about the keep on trying to accomplish these things, all those things felt very relatable to me at least, and they felt very human. And it was, I love when authors do that, when they show you a antagonist or a villain or just someone who, you know, isn't the best person in the story, isn't the good person in the story, and they show you aspects of them that make them human, and they can almost show a mirror to you of like, you also have these questions, you also have this drive, you also have these wonderings. The response that it provokes from readers, it tends to be either completely hate the character, especially because of those aspects, but to me, I really love when those come forward, because I guess it's just showing how not everything is completely good, not everything is completely bad. You know, there are a lot of things behind someone's fault for something. I'm not defending Victor. I don't like Victor, but it was really nice to see a character as a full-rounded human. Not the best human, but a human nonetheless. And same thing with the creature. I really hurt for the creature. I think it's such a sad story and it's so important to read because of it. But there were a lot of times where the creature also wasn't all that helpless, or I don't know, one would think that nature would make him learn, but at the same time, how human is he really? How does morality work within his psyche? It's such a weird, complex question, but I liked that I wasn't just feeling sorry for the creature the whole time. There were other times where I felt mad at the creature. I really love how in the book the sense of responsibility really intertwines the lives of the creature and Frankenstein. I think in the movie all the horror that happens is always very directly provoked and committed by Victor. The creature is always framed as the guilty one, but it's never his fault in the movie. In the book though, is the creature committing the crimes. He's the one doing them physically, but they're always driven by this abandonment that he has endured from his creator, which I think makes it even more interesting. I get the notion of the movie, and I'm really happy that the movie is the way that it is, because that way, you know, different themes or at least different edges of the themes were able to be explored, and I think that is so cool, especially with a book this old that has had other adaptations. I think it's nice to get a new interpretation and a new light on the story. But I'm also so glad that I was able to watch and read the book and not just leave the story with the sense of the movie, if that makes sense. Which I guess it just goes back to always read original material, always try to engage with that. Another thing that I found really interesting is that in the introduction, Mary Shelley, the letter that she attaches to the book in the second version, in the one that I read, she's talking about how she thought of the idea and how it came to her, and she's describing when she's in this house with her husband and Lord Byron, and they assign each other the task to write a ghost story, and she's really struggling with it. But then that night, as her head hits the pillow, she suddenly has the vision for it. She actually sees the scene where Victor creates the creature. And then I found really interesting that in volume 1, as we're seeing Victor studying death so he can understand life and doing all these experiments and analysis and kind of like hitting a wall of not being able to find the answer, one night his head hits the pillow and he suddenly has a vision and like resolves the thing, which is I think really interesting because Victor is a creator, Mary Shelley is a creator, and she's situating herself in the same parallel with Victor on purpose. She could have gone without putting that on the letter and describing it that way. So I found that very interesting in terms of what is she saying. I know that a lot of people like to separate the writer from the story, but I, as a aspiring author, I'm always really interested when the life of a writer kind of intertwines with the story, and if they choose to show us that. I want to read more of hers, I want to learn more about her. I think she's a really interesting person, or was, but she feels so alive. This felt so contemporary even though it was written centuries ago. Volume 3 though was harder to get in, and probably it was because of all the things that I had going on around, and I wanted to keep on filming and I wanted to finish the book, and I felt that time was slipping away from me. I think that the next time that I read it, because I want to reread it, it will be different in that way. I think I'll have a similar experience as The Picture of Dorian Gray. I keep bringing up this book in terms of Frankenstein, but I think they relate in some way. But the first time that I read The Picture of Dorian Gray, I had a notion of the book, and I thought I understood every single thing about the book, and it was so enlightening. And then a year after, in a class, I reread the book, and I had a completely different notion and a completely different interpretation as I did my first time. I had to buy a second copy because I was looking at my annotations and I was thinking what a fool I was. So I'm getting the sense that I'll probably have a similar-ish experience with Frankenstein once I reread it, because there were so many things between each line. I'm excited for next year. Although I just said that it's a book for every day of the year, I like the idea of reading it on a more gloomy day just because of the gothic in it. I give this book 4 stars, and probably that is because of my reading experience, not because of the book, but because of everything that I had going on in the background. One cool thing that I learned, well, cool, at least it's very unique to her, one thing that I learned about Mary Shelley was that after her husband died, she kept his heart, the organ, wrapped in poetry in her desk. I mean, girl, I keep letters and every like little thing that you might give me. Like, you give me a leaf, I'll keep it. The leaf, the scene of the leaf in the movie, oh my god. Jacob Elordi, you talented human and creature, you are amazing. The scene of the leaf, the acting was great.